Sounds like you guys want me to show you some bad Naruto games. Challenge accepted. This is Globku with TGN, and this is our list of the top 10 worst Naruto games ever made. After going through the best Naruto games list, it's time to turn things around and look at the worst. Not all of these games are terrible. The first games that I mention are meh. They're not horrible. There are better options if you want to play those kinds of games, but they're definitely not good. Mediocre at best. But I've rambled for long enough. Here's our list, beginning with number 10. Naruto Path of the Ninja is a traditional JRPG with a turn-based battle system. It follows the plot up to the end of the Chunin exam arc. Like many other games of this genre, it has a hub world, party management, leveling up, boss fights, and tons of filler content. It has some depth with the different characters you can pair up and align for different bonuses, but otherwise, it's just a very run-of-the-mill RPG that follows the Naruto canon. There are better ways to experience the Naruto story and way better JRPGs out there. Naruto Ninja Destiny was a handheld alternative to the Clash of Ninja series. It had a story mode, taking you from the Chunin exam to the legendary Sannin arc. The whole thing was extremely short, only 10 battles, you could beat it in less than an hour. The value after that was simply going into battle mode or wireless battle mode to fight against a computer or a friend. It lacked the polish and depth that the Clash of Ninja games had. Overall, not a great alternative to that series. From our previous video, it sounds like some people actually like Ninja Council, so I don't want to bash it too hard because I don't want to hurt your feelings, but sometimes nostalgia paired up with the franchise that we love makes us see games in a different light. Naruto Ninja Council is a side-scroller brawler for the Game Boy Advance. You go through a series of levels, each one with a boss fight at the end. The thing is, you have to play through the same environment twice, only with a different boss fight at the end, over and over. And even though these bosses have different abilities, the strategies for taking them down only vary a little. The platforming in this game is just not good enough, and it becomes an oversimplified brawler that you kinda drag yourself through. The second Ninja Council improved a lot, but the first one just wasn't that good. I'm sorry. Naruto Konoha Ninpochu came out only in Japan for the Wonder Swan color. If you're wondering why you've never heard of this handheld console, it's because it never made it to the Western market. This was the first and last Naruto game released for this platform, and it's also an RPG with a turn-based battle system. This game literally adds nothing new to gaming. It's very linear, the battle system has little to no depth, there's no good reason for playing it other than you accidentally bought a Wonder Swan color and now you feel like you have to buy games to justify that purchase. Here's another side-scrolling brawler. You know, Ninja Council gets some credit because it was working with limited technology, but Naruto Shippuden 3D The New Era runs on the Nintendo 3DS. It had no right being worse than the Game Boy game. Generic platforming sections, horrible combat mechanics. Seriously, Naruto has one combo, which is this punch-kick combination that you do over and over. And while some boss fights have interesting mechanics, the way this game plays is just terrible. So even the boss fights end up being not that fun. Clash of Ninja Revolution 3 was on our top 5 list of the best Naruto games, but this series wasn't always good, and I think the one that pissed off players the most was definitely Revolution 2. You see, the combat in Clash of Ninja wasn't always as polished and balanced as we know it now. It was clunky and sometimes unresponsive, and some characters was just plain broken. It got better over time. They released Gekto Ninja Taisen 3 on Japan, which was ported to the Wii as the first Clash of Ninja Revolution. So, when they announced Revolution 2, we all just assumed they were gonna port Gekto Ninja Taisen 4, right? That's not unrealistic to think of. Well, because the anime series in Japan was far ahead of the dubbed version in the US, Tomy decided to scrap its story mode and replace it with the most generic and basic filler one could possibly think of.
Choji, what are you doing?
I want to eat some meat.
Huh?
If I defeat you, I can eat all the meat I could ever dream of.
Choji, I don't care how hungry you are. You're acting like a loon.
To top it off, this game was gonna have online multiplayer, a plan that the developer decided to scrap in favor of fleshing out the story, so you can imagine how offended we were. Somehow, they made the game control worse than the first Revolution game, and it was an overall mess. Avoid this one, for sure. Do you know what would go really well with Naruto? A turn-based strategy game style. Said no one ever. Konoha Senki is one of the most basic, shallow, and simple strategy games I've ever played, and it just doesn't fit the franchise at all. And the platform is no excuse. 2 years before this game came out, one of my favorite turn-based strategy games ever made was released for the Game Boy Advance, and it was called Advance Wars. The Naruto characters and fighting style simply weren't made for this kind of game, or at least not the way Konoha Senki does it. I'm sorry. Before you grab my neck and strangle me to death, let me just say that Uzumaki Chronicles 2 did a much better job and wasn't a bad game at all. But the first Uzumaki Chronicles very much deserves to be on this list. It is an extremely shallow 3D brawler. It has a handful of combos and a very small roster, making this game very repetitive. You fight the same enemies over and over. They'll interrupt you on your way to missions, becoming even more annoying, and once again, the whole plot is complete garbage filler.
Naruto, hold on a minute. Let me carry the Tamasaburo.
Nah, it's okay. It's part of my mission to carry this back. Besides, if I gave it to you, you'd probably eat it.
Just hand it over. That Tamasaburo is mine! Give it to me!
What is it with Choji and terrible Naruto plots? In addition to all that, because the dub version of the anime was behind the original version in Japan, the presence of Itachi, Kisame, and Tsunade were wiped clean off in the English version of the game. Take all I said about Uzumaki Chronicles and make it 10 times worse. That's Dragon Blade Chronicles for you. First of all, it's a hack and slash adventure because, as we know, Naruto mainly fights with a weapon, right? No. And then all there is to the combat is performing the same combo over and over and doing Rasengans once in a while. It's complete garbage. The plot feels like it was taken from a completely different game and somehow stuffed into Naruto because it really doesn't feel like anything like the anime. Even fillers had better stories. Again, there's some boss fights that could be interesting, but the game's mechanics just make the whole thing very dull. I mean, this game takes the award for the most crazy, ridiculous idea anyone could ever have to make a Naruto game. Naruto Shinobi no Sato Jintori Kassen is a board game. The easiest way for me to explain how this game works to you is by comparing it to Monopoly. You roll the dice, or whatever that is, you land somewhere and you can buy that territory for yourself, so if your opponent lands on it, it's taking damage. Now, I can appreciate tabletop and party games inspired on board games for their value in a party scenario. I spent countless nights playing these games with my friends, but a single version of Monopoly isn't exactly the first thing that comes to mind when I say I want to play Naruto. Unlike some of the previous games, I can't even get mad at this one. It just makes me laugh every time I see it. Well, that's our list. Now I'd like to ask you guys, what's the worst Naruto game you have ever played? Let me know in the comments. I love hearing stories of pain and sorrow. And hey, if you don't agree with any of my choices for this list, that's totally fine. Be the knight in shining armor coming out to protect this game that you love. Just, personally, I don't want to play any of these games ever again. If you enjoyed the video, click that like button, it helps us out a lot, and if you want to reach me directly, you can do so on Twitter at magical_noob. I've been Globku. Take care guys, see you next time. Bye.